Welcome back, everyone, to the Show of Requirements, a Harry Potter podcast presented by the Gazebo Effect Network and streaming everywhere you get podcasts and on YouTube. I'm your host, David Gonzalez, and I'm joined by my co-host and my very good friends, Spencer Price, Abby Tooley, Cole Harris. We're back. Full team's back. Cole, we missed you last week. We hope you're well.
I miss being here.
Luckily, you came at Spencer's favorite section of the reading.
100%.
He had a baller of a time.
And if you're one of those people that is terrible at getting sarcasm, this is my least favorite segment of the book, I think. Because I've read a little ahead. Okay, I did it. I just wanted to get to the end of this. So I've been just blundering my way through the rest of it.
Well, I'll share how I feel about this section of this reading later. But on more serious notes, at the time of this recording, it's a few days after Michael Gambon, who is known as Dumbledore in Prisoner of Azkaban until the end of the series. He passed away. A huge loss for the world. And so just really quickly, just want to get everyone's kind of thoughts on it, or I guess Michael Gambon's legacy as Dumbledore, as this is, a Harry Potter podcast.
I mean, I really enjoyed him as Dumbledore. He was a lot of fun, brought a lot to the character. But also, I'm not gonna, as a movie lover, I'm not gonna discount the other things that he's in. Possibly one of my favorites is Tim Burton's Sleepy Hollow. Has Johnny Depp, and actually it has Palpatine in it too.
Ian McDermott.
Yes. It's a strange movie, but he was like the mayor of Sleepy Hollow. Obviously, he dies in that movie too. So, yeah.
I haven't seen Michael Gambon in a lot of other things, and if I did, I probably couldn't name them off the top of my head right now. But I think that he did a great job. I mean, we've talked about the differences between the Dumbledores, but I definitely think towards the end of the series, he really took on kind of the more serious Dumbledore role well. We've talked about how, maybe in some ways, he might not have always been like the perfect casting, but he was still a very great casting. And we love Michael Gambon. And I know that he was very well renowned in the field of acting. And I don't know, it's really sad that he's gone.
He did so many things. The only other thing I can think of off the top of my head is he's in the King's Speech, but he's in like so many other things. I mean, the King's Speech is a small role for him, but he's King George the Third,
80th,
or the 80th.
That
yeah,
too.
then yes and yes to both of those. That's how English royalty works.
That is.
Listen, he just has in that movie. He's just an old guy that does a killer speech before the other guy that does the speech that the movie's actually about. Michael Gambon's the guy to beat, But hey, no one gives speeches better than he does. I gave a full tribute on Instagram now a few weeks back. If you're listening to this, but the short of it is Michael Gambon is my Dumbledore. For all of his flaws. Listen, I don't think Richard Harris did everything perfectly either.
He didn't.
I also think that Michael Gambon is silly and whimsical, but in the weirdest moments. Really specifically, Prisoner of Azkaban, Half-Blood Prince, and Deathly Hallows. But nothing in between that. Because he's silly as all get out in Prisoner of Azkaban, It's pretty much just Michael Gambon and the person in a really long wig and beard getup, just dancing around. My favorite is the behind the scenes, which every Potter fan should know, is Daniel Radcliffe in his high pre-puberty voice is, there was a farting machine in my sleeping bag. And so Michael Gambon's giving this entire scene talking about, in dreams I don't
enter a realm all its own.
It's all entirely own. And every time he's just pressing the farting button. and he breaks Alan Rickman of all people.
Yeah.
What a guy.
What a guy. And you can see how valued he was on the group family of Harry Potter. Sure. Like Ralph Fiennes in his Voldemort getup is just chatting amicably with Michael Gambon off screen, which is the weirdest sight you'll ever see. A, because he has a nose, but B, because of just due to the characters they play. And they probably never got to see each other outside of that day. But Michael Gambon made me think Dumbledore could do all of the powerful things that we associate with Dumbledore, but he also made me believe that Dumbledore would love knitting patterns.
Yes.
True.
And somehow he balanced both of those. So I also think, like, when I see Jude Law Dumbledore, I feel like he's his own thing in a lot of ways, but at the same time he relates to me most to Michael Gambon.
Yeah, I feel like Jude Law Dumbledore
embody
would grow into Michael
Gambon.
Yeah.
We've done multiple episodes over this, namely one of our first episodes, The Faces of Dumbledore.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is premature because we hadn't seen Secrets of Dumbledore at that point. So we hadn't gotten the full Jude Law / hopefully it's not the end.
Yeah. If that is smart, it would not be the end. Yeah. So, I mean, we're all mourning the loss of Michael Gambon, and
82, he had a long life and his family was with him. You know, he wasn't exactly young, but it's still hard.
Right. Yeah. And so moving on now, the Writers Guild of America agrees to terms and has ended their part of the strike. And SAG-AFTRA is currently negotiating with Alliance of Motion Pictures and television producers to end their own strike as of right now.
As of when we're recording, yeah. Hopefully they'll have reached an agreement by the time this episode is released.
Yeah, hopefully by the time it's released. They did at like when we're recording, they're going back 2 days from now to continue negotiations. So hopefully that gets resolved soon. And so we can get some movement. It's
good for everybody, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But good for the actors.
For sure. But let's go ahead and let's get into this section of the reading. I know Spencer said that this is like his least favorite.
I don't know about that. It might be just chapter 19.
Yeah,
I think it is just chapter 19
because the rest of it is great. The rest of it is great for me. I enjoyed this part of the reading and this part of the book, and I think I probably have a hot take that when we finish, I'll see if I still feel this way by the time we finish this book. But I'm enjoying Order of the Phoenix more than Goblet of Fire. Like for me, this is just it hits. Chow Chang cringy romance aside. I'm just enjoying it. I'm finding myself like really getting into it. But let's go ahead and hop into chapter 19, The Lion and the Serpent. Since you absolutely hate this chapter, I'm going to go ahead and let you lead us through your reasoning for a moment.
Listen, just as Harry in his dreams in this book is running down this hallway and he sees the end. I hope you know where I'm going with this. He sees the end, and he sees the light behind the door. I am just running towards that end, and the light is a green and blue light, which is the cover of the Half-Blood Prince. Or the light for getting out of this book. But I enjoy the book more once they finally get rid of Umbridge. But it takes too long for that to happen. Goodness. Well, there's a lot it doesn't really get into the bad parts at first, I have lots of questions about wizard counterfeiting that won't be answered, but it seems too easy. Plus, I would miss it. I wouldn't be able to read it. I'd be like Neville, and someone would just have to tell me to my face when the meetings are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just horrible Quidditch. Like Snape has been Snape's always horrible when it comes to Quidditch, a sport that he doesn't actively seem to really care about. But he just makes it hard for them to practice, and then love the hat. I like that they didn't do Quidditch at all in the movie, but they still brought back the hat in Half-Blood Prince. It was a nice touch. Weasley as our king is one of the most horrible things that's ever been said about a human being.
Yes.
You have to admit, it's clever rhyming, though.
It is,
but it's terrible.
Rhymes.
It's not only clever writing, and Abby, you watch Premier League games every week,
right, with
your husband. This is a very, very British sports thing to do.
Yes.
And a lot of there are European soccer players, which is like the best athlete you can be in the world, highest paying, et cetera, et cetera. They retire early because they are so sick of the punishment that comes from the fans, if you will, at every single game. They yell at you if you're at a home game, they yell at you if you're at an away game, and this is definitely an away game, if you will, for Gryffindor. And so when I hear this, I don't think in terms of a songy song like Jim Dale does it. I think about it like in a English or European sports event. Think Ted Lasso, saying the word that starts with a W, that I'm going to let you fill in those gaps for what they call Ted. It's like that.
I'm going to have to Google that because I don't understand the reference.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't understand that reference.
I can't. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to. But the first entire season, they call him, it starts with a W, and it's something that men have. It's a British term for it. And the best part of Ted Lasso is at one point they like win a game in the first season and they still are yelling it, but Ted's like, you hear that? It's the same word, but it kind of has a different sound to it. Anyway, so that's what this feels like to me, is just like horrible. I mean, it's accurate, but man, it's infuriating, just the entire thing.
Well, see, here's the thing. You say that, but I believe that Weasley as our king is a banger of a song, and I want it on Apple Music like tomorrow.
The new lyrics,
it's
maybe
so catchy. Yeah, the new
and
lyrics.
It's horrible that you're trying to watch, you're watching, if you will, quote unquote, this terrible game, horrible game. And every time, like, it keeps stopping the game to have to read, Weasley was born in a bin. He was born in a bin. Can't say the thing. Always lets the quaffle in. And so, I don't know. Yeah. It feels to me like Slytherin has pulled everything else they can think of.
Yeah.
And so this is like a desperation attempt thing.
Yeah, they 100% cannot beat Gryffindor at this point.
They can't beat Gryffindor. Is their only weak link is Ron, and that's only if he has no confidence. They've figured that out, and so they're trying to beat his confidence to a pulp. But
Harry ends it early. He ends it.
Yeah, and it's another example of, or maybe it was the next game. There was that's when Ginny plays. Yeah. But Harry barely wins the game. Ginny ends the punishment. So you can listeners catch the snitch and lose the game. You just have to have Ron as goalkeeper, apparently.
That was established in
the Goblet of Fire.
I know, but like that's the only one people think about.
Oh.
But it happens more than once in the Harry Potter series. Somebody could just, and they do this later in the book, They could have just said Silencio to Malfoy.
Wish they had.
And it would have saved so much pain. Because, man, Malfoy
went
goes
off.
Too far.
But, there's
crazy.
something so satisfying about the idea of Harry and
beating the
George
crap out of Malfoy.
Is beating the crap out of Malfoy.
Yeah. I wrote this down. I said Harry is completely justified, and there's no blame that I give him in this section for just beating up Malfoy. Like,
a little get
he said
coming.
so many. He said so many things that I was just like, I'm really surprised he lasted as long as he did.
Honestly, I thought as soon as they mentioned Mrs. Weasley that it was just going to be over.
Go down.
But no.
Yeah. But then, we have McGonagall, telling them off, taking away points.
For about
all that
0.2 seconds.
Yeah.
Until the worst human being comes in, which is Umbridge.
The greatest villain of all time.
It's not even the greatest villain. I don't know.
Greatest villain of all time.
Oops. Sorry, we forgot to add her on the bracket of death.
I know. I feel like we should have, but she's only a villain in this and like a couple chapters of Deathly Hallows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nah, she's definitely. I mean, there's only like 3 villains in Harry Potter.
Right.
4 if you include Fudge. So.
Yeah.
5 if you include the Malfoys.
And that just, Umbridge, yeah, it's true. But Umbridge is just like, it makes Hogwarts unenjoyable, which makes the majority of the book unenjoyable.
Well,
so thank you, Cole, because that's how I feel. Like that's tough. And then a lifetime ban. Like, of course you do a lifetime ban. Is that surprising?
Yeah, right.
No.
Cracks.
Did it make me jaw drop when I first read the book? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Did it make me jaw drop the second time because I forgot it happened the first time?
Yeah, I was just like, okay, so he could never play Quidditch again, and like, especially like, I didn't know that Umbridge was going to get kicked at the time. For all I knew, Umbridge would be there the rest of the series, and so I got a gnat that won't leave me alone. So
but how would they know? You should have known that she wouldn't have stuck around because she was.
She was the Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher. Yeah,
I guess that's fair,
that
but they hadn't. Yeah, I guess so.
But also, how are they going to keep him from teaching his kids Quidditch in the future?
Well, what do you mean?
Like, if there really was a lifetime ban, how would they?
Well, it's only from Hogwarts. I don't think it was like. I don't think it is extended.
Is it?
No, I think I don't think so. I think the Ministry wouldn't have let him play professionally.
No, I don't think that. No, I don't think that at all.
They already established later in this book.
Hogwarts.
They already established later in this book that they would never hire him at the Ministry of Magic.
Two words: lifetime ban.
2 words: Cornelius Fudge.
No, I don't. I don't agree. I think it was a lifetime ban from Hogwarts. That's what I think. Just because they wouldn't hire him at the Ministry of Magic.
Then they could have called it a Hogwarts ban. But
no, why would you call it a Hogwarts ban? That sounds stupid. A lifetime ban still sounds.
I think the reach is enough to call it lifetime.
Anyways,
we're
on that little rabbit hole. Go away, Crangus.
But yeah, the best beaters in the school and the best seeker in the school can no longer play.
Terrible.
And Malfoy got pretty much nothing. So I just really love.
That's it.
I just really love how verbal abuse is totally fine in Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Or the idea that one person
from Snape, Malfoy, Crabbe.
Yes, exactly.
Well, Crabbe can't do.
Well, no.
Pansy Parkinson is the third one I was thinking of.
I'm even thinking of different instances, even before Umbridge even came on the scene, to where like it's known. There's witnesses to how brutal Malfoy is, or Crabbe is, or even Snape is. And Harry or someone else does something, they get a punishment. And McGonagall even like doesn't do anything. Like doesn't even out the playing field, doesn't.
I would say Malfoy is conveniently not being heard most of the time. The only one I can think of that really tells him off is Hagrid, but he never actually punishes Malfoy.
Yeah, he never punishes him.
He just tells him off and grunts his way out of it. And Malfoy's probably too scared of Hagrid to deal with it.
Right. Yeah. That's pretty frustrating. But speaking of Hagrid, that takes us to chapter 20, Hagrid's Tale. And basically in this chapter, we just hear what Hagrid has been up to kind of this entire time. One of the things I did love about it, just kind of going through my notes, is again just how much they're doing, really, and just what seems to be at stake throughout this entire period of going to the mountains. We get to hear about his mom passing away, this and this and that. But ultimately, they fail to enlist the help of the giants. Just sad to see.
Well, the book is called The Order of the Phoenix, and so it's nice to learn a little more about what the Order of the Phoenix is doing.
Yeah.
And we see them in action more in the book. The movie does do this scene, but it's so much shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do like the this is like a small little detail of how unfazed Hagrid was in first meeting Umbridge initially. Like he was just being very, very polite. And so but then you also really feel for him when he kind of doesn't heed Hermione's warning about the evaluation he's going to have with Umbridge, and hey, you should probably teach something that's safe, something that isn't too far out there. And he's just like, no, I'm good. I can handle it.
One chapter later.
I find it sad.
Well, I think Umbridge is just going to find a way to give him a bad review anyways.
Yeah, no matter what he did.
No.
Yeah, I mean, she's like...
I mean,
quite
she
literally,
essentially...
in a fictional sense, racist.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to have to bleep that word out.
Breedist? I don't know. It is, and this book is really great at exemplifying this. I'm in the best chapter of the book, which is Dumbledore chatting with Harry for like 4 hours. But he explained, Dumbledore straight up says that the statues in the Ministry of Magic is a straight up lie. And that the wizarding world is not kind to anything that's not wizard/human. And so we see that. We have already seen it with house elves. We continue to see that with house elves. We get a full-blown view of centaurs, which is it's a couple chapters down the road. And then giants. So we've covered like almost every race. And I think they mentioned mer people once.
Right.
And thestrals. So it's just an interesting fact that that JK made the Wizarding World is not perfect. The honeymoon phase of the first 3 books is over, or at least the first 2 books, and we're learning more and more about the world and people and agendas and how that affects everything. So the fact that there's only like 80 giants left in the entire world is just an insane, very sad truth.
Yeah. Any other thoughts from this chapter before we move on? All right, so let's go. Chapter 21, The Eye of the Snake. So what we see in this chapter is we get to see that lesson with Hagrid occur, and it is an absolute dumpster fire. I think the lesson would have been cool with an open mind, but it seems like Umbridge was hell-bent to, like, I think like Abby said, he could have taught over anything. And Umbridge, basically what she wasn't allowed to do with McGonagall, she did with Hagrid. Just interrupting him every 5 seconds, talking very loudly to other students while he's trying to teach, throwing him off his game. Just, it was really difficult to read through. Very difficult.
Yes. Which is, then how can you say you love this book?
I love this book.
So many pieces of it are difficult to read through.
Because like you say, like there's light at the end of the tunnel, and for you that's like the Half-Blood Prince like front cover. To me, it's just later parts in this book. It makes her demise that much more satisfying. Like I would agree with you that this is terrible and it ruins the book if she just kind of disappeared and nothing ever happened to her. Like she was just there and causing all this chaos, and then she just took off and left, and there was no consequences for her actions. But the fact that she does get the consequences, that's the light at the end of the tunnel for me. And even just to see, like, again, this is a story of evil taking over the wizarding world, not just outside of Hogwarts, but even Hogwarts within itself. And it's not just Voldemort, it is also people with prejudices as well. And we see that in this book. And the people who are being affected by it have to rally together against not just one evil, but evil as a whole that takes different forms. That's why I love this book so much, because we're starting to see that being played out in different ways.
How do you guys feel about Thestrals?
I like them.
I like them
cool.
too.
Mm-hmm.
I also think the movie scene might be better, but it's completely different. They're introduced by Luna. I don't know.
I guess I just don't have a preference of
there's no Umbridge in the movie scene. There's not a lesson by Hagrid, so there's no Hagrid either.
Mm-hmm. I like Neville being
able to see them. But why can he see them? His grandpa?
Yeah, he said it was his grandpa that he saw die. But to me, that's not even worth saying that the book is better. But the movie scene isn't necessarily great either. It's not bad. Like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. To me, there's just nothing special, significant.
I mean, always more Neville is appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe not this time.
But in terms of the film itself, I mean, it's one of the scenes that really gives you more development with Luna Lovegood. I think that was the point of it.
That's what I feel like too.
So in that case, like, I enjoy it because we spend way more time with her in the film than in the book.
That's what I was gonna say. I'm like, I'm in the final not couple pages, but I'm in the final. I've made the final turn for the book, and I'm like, man, there's so much less Luna than I thought. But she does get more play in Half-Blood Prince, and she gets her play in the books. It's still more overall than the movies probably, but
and it's been more of a character. I'm so far removed from the last time I've read through Half-Blood Prince or even Deathly Hallows, because I think it might have been like 2 years ago. So I'm like forgetting all those details of how involved she was in the later book. So I hope you're absolutely right, and we get to see more of her, because I'm not getting enough during this read. Which is funny because, like, Luna Lovegood was an established character before Harry was, for JK.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that I'm just going to bring this up quickly. Andrew Kirk and Jack Sloper are the new beaters, and I don't think they're ever mentioned again.
I did not remember their names
after this
whatsoever.
book because Dean and Seamus take over in the next book. Not that they're that much better, but they're better than these two.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't try out this year. I guess their OWL's stressing them out.
Maybe. But I'm glad that Ginny is becoming more involved in the story. Like, to me, from here on out, she becomes more a part of the story, and I think we start getting that push for her, which is great as she becomes Harry's replacement on the Quidditch team. But this book also has the worst romance in Harry Potter as it continues, as we have the most cringiest kiss of all time, rivaling the film version of Ginny and Harry's first kiss. Like, golly, was it awful. Golly,
but they don't even kiss. Like, I mean, they do, but
they kiss.
They don't get into the deets of this. I don't know. I'm a big sap. I liked it. It's a fun scene for me. It's more fun for me. The more fun part of it for me is not that, but the scene directly after that with Ron.
To me, Ron rescues it.
Having a gag about it.
It's worth having a gag about because it's just so bad. Like, she cries and then she kisses Harry. How was it? Wet. Because heaven meets earth like a sloppy wet kiss.
No.
It is sloppy wet.
Unforeseen.
David said the right thing. It is sloppy wet.
No.
Abby's
disapparated.
No.
Anyway,
since Abby's gone, we're gonna say that she's a passionate Kiss fan.
Passionate.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's some crazy. Not me.
Mm-hmm.
Sloppy wet forever.
Unforeseen.
Anyway, so
uninvited.
Yeah, either way.
Hey, Abby, listen. This song was written by the
consent.
Naked in Our Own Clothes guy. Okay, it's more in line with the rest of his compendium of songs and lyrics. But I understand why why David Crowder Band changed it, and that's all we're gonna say about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyway, so the chapter ends with Harry having his dream and basically being Nagini attacking Mr. Weasley.
I'm confused as to what Voldemort's trying to do with the prophecy. Does he think the snake can go get it for him? Because Nagini don't got hands.
No, I thought that they said in the book that they thought that he sent Nagini as like a almost like a little spy, like a lookout to see what they're up against if they were to try and like break in.
Because they tried to send Sturgis and Bode. I don't know. It just now that I've read the whole thing, I'm like, it feels like Voldemort should have been able to get this himself, but I don't know. The Department of Mysteries is a very confusing place.
Yeah, I
These
agree.
Are confusing times.
Spencer. I do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's us going, this is very confusing, and then J.K. Rowling going, these are confusing times, and we're like, but.
She did it first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
is it this or is it this? Yes.
But as we get to chapter 22, St. Mungo's Hospital for Magical Maladies and Injuries, we see initially Dumbledore directing traffic as even Harry in this has a moment of hatred towards him and is tempted to attack him.
But it's not Harry, as we find out later.
Yeah. It's not. Now they're able to get all the Weasleys together, and they send them to Sirius, and they want to go ahead and go and see him, but Sirius steps up to try and get the Weasleys again to commit to remaining calm in order to protect the Order. And I think this is a really great moment for him because, again, he's cooped up, doesn't get to go outside, and so helping the Order not be exposed, to be put in danger, is really great. And for me, I enjoy this moment a lot.
It's a very emotional scene.
It really is.
And just before that, I like Dumbledore, how he works and how he thinks. Like Fawkes and how he uses Fawkes to do his bidding is kind of amazing as well.
Yeah, because I thought that scene was a lot cooler in the book than it was in the movie.
Yeah.
Because
I was like, is he warning Molly? But then I was like, oh, he's watching Umbridge.
Yeah,
like
which
Fawkes
is
wild.
Super
but yes,
cool.
Very emotional scene. I mean, they just sit there all night and you feel the passage of time. Like, it's just extremely well written.
Yeah. And once you get that kind of revelation from Molly, like, he's going to make it. It's going to be okay. Everybody, including the reader, takes a huge sigh of relief. But again,
we love Arthur.
Yes, we do. And
did you guys read this in the Phineas lines too? Like, my brain puts Simon Pegg in there now.
Yeah, mine does too.
Thanks to his performance in Hogwarts Legacy. Just wanted to make that reference.
Yeah. But one of my favorite scenes, and a very heartwarming scene, is when Molly thanks both Harry and Sirius. And especially like Molly and Sirius, because we know that they've had their back and forth throughout this book. But this is like a genuine good moment between the two of again,
working
Sirius
together.
And Molly working together, and in the most important moments. But I will say, this is probably, for me, this is probably just me, and this is probably a hot take. This is probably the most frustrated and most annoyed I've ever been with Fred and George, in all of Harry Potter. Just because, like, they wanted to be like involved with the Order at the beginning of this book, but then they totally display a lack of maturity to prove why they're not in the Order. And what I mean by that is like how they are just, their father is in St. Mungo's resting, trying to tell them like that he's okay, this and this and that, and they're just trying to get information about the like, are you trying to like get the weapon to destroy Voldemort and this and this and like zero tact. And I was just like, guys, shut up. Like, what are you guys talking about? But that was just me. That's how I felt while I was reading.
They mature as much as you can expect them to, I feel like. But they never quite mature. They're eternal kids. I don't feel like they wouldn't mature. They don't really.
Would you say same?
Out of,
yes.
I don't feel like they mature until they're out of Hogwarts, but maybe that's just me.
So, like in the next book,
ish, yeah.
And
after that, like Deathly Hallows a little bit more.
Wow.
But they're more mature in the movies too. And
Fred only goes so far.
Maybe that's just because of the help.
She said it, not me.
She said, "Yeah."
I am
Cole needed that
more ashamed.
I did.
This is confession time. I'm very ashamed of this, of the number of times that I have Googled, did Fred or George die?
No.
Because I can't remember.
Why?
I always forget which one died. It's Fred, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. like a lot of times when it comes up, I just forget. I do.
Fake fan. I'm kidding.
I know. That might be worse than the time I skipped Chamber of Secrets.
The only reason I remember in Spencer's defense is because George marries what's her face that Fred asks to go to the Yule Ball with him.
That doesn't
Angelina
help.
Johnson.
That makes it more confusing, Cole.
No, it makes sense
like,
to me.
Well, Fred went out with so-and-so, so then Fred would probably survive and marry them. It's like, no, but it's George.
Yes, exactly. That is my thought process.
No.
That's just
It's because she wanted to see him again.
Gosh.
I need to go get my laptop charger. It's gonna die.
And I can't remember which one, because Fred loses the ear and he dies.
Yeah,
Yes.
he had a rough
No.
go
Yes.
of it.
Yeah.
No, because he
Rough
says,
time.
I'm holy Fred. Oh my
Saint-like.
Now
How
I'm
are you
really
feeling?
losing
Saintly.
Wait. Now you're making me second guess everything. Hold on.
it.
Yeah, I think it's Fred. I think George is the
George
one who
loses the
lost the
ear.
ear.
Oh.
Yeah, George
Yeah,
loses
George.
the ear.
George lost the ear.
Fred loses
Fred
his
died.
life. Yeah.
Well,
I'm never going to remember.
Sorry, that was terrible. No,
But
it's
let's move
easy.
on.
Yeah, let's move on.
It's easy, yeah. Okay.
Now,
what's cool about this chapter, there's so much to mention. There's a huge, very rich chapter that is completely just cut from the movie entirely.
Yes.
It
made me so mad when I read this the first time, and I realized that this entire chapter would have been so cool in the movie had they included it.
it's going to be great in the reboot.
Very, very in my opinion, very heartwarming and very grounding of just what's at stake here with not only Arthur, but also, as I guess we'll just head into it, with Neville. This is a big chapter for Neville.
Yeah. Let's go there. Chapter 24. Or chapter 23, Christmas on the Closed Ward. Yeah. Go ahead, Cole. Talk about that.
So we get to see, we actually get to meet Neville's parents.
in a way.
Of course, after we see Arthur in his hospital bed, and we go through the whole process of entering the hospital. I like their disguises. Like, they tried, but they failed. Oh yes, Mad Eye's gonna look great in a derby hat. I hope they include that in the reboot. That specific detail.
Yeah.
I just love everything on the hospital and everything that they do. Oh my god.
If you're not listening, if you're not watching on YouTube, you are like missing out. But
I'm also so sorry if you're not, because Abby just scared all of us.
It's not scared us. It was more like Thor from Love and Thunder when Star-Lord's talking and he.
It's just gotta remember who we love. Anyway, sorry.
What was I saying? I'm lost.
Spencer, you're saying you love
the hospital's just fun.
Yes.
Getting to see a wizard hospital and how it works, and the lady at the front desk is just not nonchalant about all these crazy conditions that people. She's just like someone. And then of course, no one. David, you didn't even write this down, and I'm frankly, I'm frustrated with you for not including Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
No. Hold on.
He came back at all in this.
Wait,
I would have loved to have seen Kenneth Branagh again.
Yes.
Listen.
Do you live here?
Lockhart is the worst character of all of Harry Potter. You're talking about Umbridge shouldn't be in it. Lockhart shouldn't be in it.
That is not true.
That's my personal conviction. That is my personal.
I hate him.
One. I'll take it. I'll take the hot take.
Lockhart
I don't
hilarious.
care.
You think he's worse than Umbridge?
Yes.
You think he's worse than Umbridge?
I think he's worse than Umbridge in terms of like, why are you here? What do you bring to the story? He brings nothing to the story. He's not offering any social commentary. He is literally just the dumbest character in Harry Potter.
He's a fraud. That's the best part about him.
Oh, who cares? We got plenty of frauds already. We don't need him.
He's like
I'm a little disappointed that we're not
character.
able to kick each other out and then bring each other back in.
I know.
I would have kicked you out.
I mean, I have the power. I can do that.
Fair.
I got him. No.
See, this is what happens when you mess with the stuff, David.
That's
such
me.
a dummy.
That's me, David. That's something I do.
There we go.
Okay.
I was gonna laugh if it kept shifting everybody around.
Yeah.
Listen, Gilderoy Lockhart's
again, sorry, listeners.
Like Gilderoy is Gilderoy Lockhart's very annoying in the second book, but his also his very existence is a joke, and it's a really fun callback because they will he gets name dropped at least once a book. Like
my
earlier
question
in this
to you,
book, it's fun. It adds.
My question to you is that how is it significant to the story?
He's not significant.
Exactly. Okay, thank you so much. So don't say
His
I'm
character
just disappointed in me for not mentioning it because it means nothing.
It adds humor, and it is nice to see him again.
It's not nice to see him again. I skipped this part.
Hey, what happened to Lockhart?
I skipped him. No one cares. No one cares. We care about Neville.
Which one matters less to you, David? Lockhart or Bunty?
You know what? I prefer Bunty.
That's a lie.
I prefer Bunty.
That's a huge lie.
No. I do. I prefer Bunty. No. I'm being genuinely honest. I prefer Bunty.
Who's Bunty?
100%.
Exactly.
Gosh, Cole.
Exactly.
No. Okay, I'm going to start using your logic to talk. Bunty saved the freaking world. Okay?
Who's
I'm going to use your
Bunty?
logic. She saved the freaking world with the suitcase.
She was Newt's assistant in
Grindelwald
and Secrets of Dumbledore.
Oh, I've only seen each of those movies once.
You know what, guys? Thank you, Spencer, and I hope everyone else should. If you're a Bunty fan, you should be thanking Spencer right now because he mentioned her with Lockhart. I'm now a Bunty fan. So
I did it,
you,
guys. The reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology. Anyway, so yeah, Cole, you're talking about Neville, and we get to finally meet his parents in some form or fashion.
And that's just Harry keeps that secret for a while, and that just really, I mean, we get to see obviously the story is told from Harry's perspective, but I think nothing really adds to that character because nothing adds to that character like this scene where he meets Neville and they're like, it's you. Oh, it's you. Oh, it's you. But yeah, so that's just always, and it's just a disservice to the story and to Neville becoming the hero that we see him in the Deathly Hallows, that we didn't get this in the movie.
It's not the same. It's
not the same.
It's a feeble attempt to make up for it, but he has a small conversation with Harry in the room of requirement, but the scene just it's not the same.
No.
So I guess the question that I have, Spencer, since you kind of read ahead, does the scene that happens in the film at the room of requirement, does that happen later on in the book, or is that just a substitution for this?
It's pretty much just a substitution for this. Neville does bring it up after Bellatrix gets out of Azkaban, or he brings it up. He brings it up later in the book to Ron, Hermione, and Harry, and maybe Ginny.
The only thing that I appreciate from the film version of it was just the kind of the little line of him saying, like, I'm proud to be their son. Like, to me, that is great. But to me, what my favorite part, but also the most heartbreaking part of this scene was when Alice came and gave Neville like the gum wrapper, and his grandma was just like, oh, just go ahead and throw that away, like you already have a tons of those that she's given you, and he puts it in his pocket. Like,
thanks, Mom.
And thanks, Mom. Yeah, like that to me, I'm like, Neville, gosh, I love you so much. Like, that's the character progression we need instead of Lockhart. I'm just gonna say it last time. We're gonna move on.
But it's almost
move on here.
Like it's almost like we feel. I personally feel almost worse for Neville, than I do Harry. Because I mean, Harry, lost his parents, but Neville lost his parents in almost a more horrific way. It's like they're there,
absolutely,
but they're not.
Right.
So they're just in this state of limbo, and it's horrible. Because I mean, at least Harry doesn't have to go see the dead bodies of his parents. Neville not gets dragged, but he has to go see.
Harry doesn't even remember his parents.
Exactly.
Not really. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're going and you're visiting somebody who they're never going to get better. Like, this is the best that they will ever be.
Do we know
I mean, not that we're playing
compared. When this happened? Do we know how old Neville was when this happened?
I would probably say the same. Yeah,
a baby, because he's the same age as Harry to the day.
Harry.
And it happened a few months after to a year after Voldemort was gone. But Neville does have a family, though.
He does.
He didn't have the Dursleys.
Yeah.
I mean, Gran.
No, he was still pretty.
And his
still pretty
are all
scared of
fun
Gran
and stuff. Yeah, but everyone's scared of Gran. But it sounds like the rest of his family, how challenging they are, including one of them like held him out a window or something.
They held him out a window and then dropped him because he got distracted, and that's how they found out.
But like that sounds like a very
it
must have been a pretty decent household, and they still love Neville. Yeah.
I will say one of my favorite parts of this chapter is again we hear that Mad-Eye Moody kind of hints and suggests that Harry was possessed by Voldemort when he saw Arthur getting attacked. Harry cuts himself off completely from everybody else, and we have this great moment when basically Hermione, Ron, and Ginny are like come after him. And Ginny absolutely eats Harry up in this chapter because he's like being rude to her, just like, like, woe is me, this and this and that. Like, and then Ginny was like, I was actually possessed by Voldemort. And then Harry's just like, I forgot. And Ginny says, whoa, good for you. Lucky you. And she absolutely just does so well in this scene of explaining to him the things that she's gone through, helping him figure out, nope, you weren't possessed by Voldemort, because it sounds like it's not the same thing that I went through.
It's not because Harry's a Horcrux, but we don't know that yet.
Right.
But to me, it was just great because, like we've said, and Spencer has said this many times before, like, this is like angry Harry, caps locks Harry throughout the entire time. And he's just at moments and times just very difficult to be around. And Ginny just knocks him down a peg. And we love to see it. But chapter 24, this is the final chapter, Occlumency. Pretty good chapter. I enjoyed it. I think the Snape versus Sirius is the matchup that I've always wanted. David? No, I mean, obviously, cringy scene with Harry and Cho as she forces him to ask her out for Valentine's. Like, but I will say this in defense of it to some note, and Spencer, you said this, so I'm going to give you props for this. Is Harry's just very inexperienced with romance. Very inexperienced. He has no idea what to do. So it's just awkward. But Cho has no excuse for her cringiness. No excuse. Okay? She's just cringy. That's it.
I was gonna say the date doesn't happen in this one. That's the next chapter.
Yet. Next chapter, which again,
Oh, what a great opener for the next episode.
Really is. I will say this, though. We're getting to the section that, like, Spencer read at this section when we were talking about the love triangle, like the fair or not, which if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it. It's fantastic.
I referenced
he referenced
chapter
this.
and page. Yeah.
So it's good. But the occlumency lesson is great to me, as and especially at the start, Harry seems to be able to hold his own because you know that he was able to be successful against the Imperius Curse.
But even he hates Snape too much.
Yeah, he can't be around Snape for this long. But it's still good. I enjoyed it to some extent. But he's able to remember the Department of Mysteries while they're going through this process and trying to fill in the holes and all that kind of stuff. And so we're finally starting to head in that direction a little bit. But yeah, any thoughts on this chapter before we conclude? Well, that's going to do it for us here on the Show of Requirements, a Harry Potter podcast presented by the Gazebo Effect Network. If you enjoyed this podcast on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to the channel and share it with your friends. If you've enjoyed this podcast in audio form, make sure to follow the podcast, leave us a review, as it helps us get out there and possibly crack the top 10 in Harry Potter podcasts. So,
and still share with your friends.
Yes, you can still share with your friends. So if you want to get more content from us, make sure to follow us on Instagram at hpotter_fanatics, where you'll find our fan castings for the Max Harry Potter's reboot series. So for Spencer, Abby, and Cole, this is David for the show. Until next time, legitimate.